Hi everybody, I'm going to now give you, hopefully in 10 minutes or less, all you need to know about Greece. I don't know, I don't think we'll make it. This is insane. This should be like an hour lecture. Greece, first of all, I'm going to tell you where it is, when it is, and a little bit about why it's important to us. Then I'm going to give you some stories about Sparta and Athens to try to give you a sense of why those two places in particular are important to us. Okay, first of all, Greece. You can see up on this global map, Greece is this little dot here, south of Europe, across the Atlantic Ocean from the United States, through the Straits of Gibraltar, into the Mediterranean, takes you to Greece. And here, of course, is the Greek islands and mainland. Let me show you that closer up. Again, here's the Greek mainland, and Greece has a lot of islands. That's one of the reasons that it becomes such an important naval power, Athens in particular. Athens is the largest city-state of Greece. I'll tell you about that in a bit. The other important city-state we'll talk about is Sparta, here on the Peloponnese. The Peloponnese is almost an island connected by this small bit of land to the rest of the Greek mainland, and Athens is out on this peninsula known as Attica. A few other important places. First of all, Crete. Greek civilization essentially comes from the Minoan civilization that exists in the Bronze Age in Crete. Those people eventually end up here. The other point, as long as we have this map up to show you, is the Bosporus, which is this area of land that goes right through Constantinople and Istanbul, or Istanbul, depending on when it is. And it really culturally separates the East, or Asia, from Europe and the West. So the West, the East, here's our real dividing line, in a sense. The other thing to point out is Persia. Persia is actually over here to the right. Persia is now Iran, but the Persian Empire at its height extends all the way out here into Greece. And in fact, there are Greco-Persian wars that you learn about. Okay, very quick timeline of Greek history. As I said, they've got a couple of civilizations, Minoan civilization and Mycenaean civilization, that exist before we get into what we think of as Greek history proper. The Minoans live in Crete, and then later a civilization comes along called the Mycenaeans, and they live on the Greek mainland. There is then, at the close of the Mycenaean civilization, a period known as the Dark Ages, lasts about 400 years. There's some new research that suggests it's probably not quite as dark as we thought before, but certainly it was a period of decline. Decline in agricultural productivity, people, culture, and so forth. We then get into what's called the Archaic period. Not terribly important for us. It's really sort of an art history term, but we go from the Archaic period into the Classical period. And these periods, it's not as if one year everybody says, okay, our Archaic period is over, Classical period has begun. These bleed into one another, okay? But this Classical period is when we can think of Western civilization starting. That's when all of the drama, the language, the science, the politics, the philosophy that we trace back to Greece is happening, okay? The Europeans looked to the Roman Empire, and before that the Greek empires and the Greeks, as their forebears, as the people that gave them their civilization. And that goes through, of course, to the United States. Finally, two last periods briefly. One is Hellenistic Greece. It's not really Greece at all, but Hellenistic simply refers to Greek. And this is a period when Alexander the Great has conquered large swaths of Asia. So he's in Persia, he's got Greeks in Egypt, and he sets up a whole bunch of imperial provinces, if you will. And Greek civilization and Greek culture begins to infuse these areas. So that's why we think of it as Hellenistic. It's the period when everybody's Greek in this region. And then finally, in 146, Rome conquers the mainland of Greece, and that's really the transition from Greek culture to Roman culture. Oh, sorry, here we go. Now, very quickly, I'm going to just show you a couple of bits why we're so interested in the Greeks. One is that they had incredible science, philosophy, and technology. Here's something called the Antikythera mechanism. It's named after an island called Antikythera, and it shows that the Greeks had a remarkable ability to make things. The number of teeth and the regularity of the teeth on these gears, for example, just shows an incredibly high level of precision that Europeans couldn't match for well into the 19th century. Okay, it was actually dug out of the ocean. Here's an image of it as it came out of the ocean. Here's some imaging that's been done by a group called the Antikythera Mechanism Research Project. And here's some images that they've created digitally to show what this thing looked like when it was pristine. What it exactly does, no one's entirely sure. It has, for example, a calendar of the Olympics on it. But whether it was an astronomical instrument or what, we really just don't know. And precisely how it worked, we still don't know. So it's a fascinating mystery. The other, of course, is language, and here's just one example, barbarians. Barbarian means literally non-Greek, and what I love about this word is it comes from the barbar sounds of their language, so I like to think of them as the Blablayans. Okay, and there's so much of our language, as you'll see, that comes from Greek. Okay, let me pause there, and then I'll come back and talk about the Greek Paulus.